What about tight ends? I know it's obviously there's very few compared to the other positions that end up being genuine, true season winners. But is there any trends to who those guys are? And is there anybody you're looking at that could be that in 2021?
Yeah, I will just say the hit rate on the so the tight end position league winners, it's typically tight ends being drafted like first, second, or third at the position, or guys going undrafted. We saw that last year with Logan Thomas and Robert Tonyan, Darren Waller, and Travis Kelce. And then over a broader sample, just like Kelce dominates, Waller dominates, Andrews, anyway, but so like a lot of the players who made that list, I think were obvious pre-hindsight. Mark Andrews was my top sleeper in 2019. Darren Waller ranked right behind him. George Kittle was Graham's top sleeper in 2018. Eric Ebron was Hanson's top sleeper. And those were all major league winning seasons. And then Travis Kelce, just Travis Kelce every year. Why not? Typically for looking at common threads, there really wasn't a ton. Just sophomore tight ends, that's a big thing. They go from like 60% of their career baseline production to like 95%. So that's like a great time to jump on. It's just a massive jump to jump on a sophomore tight end. Maybe Adam Troutman or Donald Parham is a thing. We'll see. But none of those guys are really on George Kittle or Mark Andrews, their level. They had historically great rookie seasons. You can look for coach speak. John Gruden basically told us Darren Waller was going to lose his mind, and he did. But that's about it. Tight end was tricky. I guess the guy I settled on was Logan Thomas. I just keep drafting him, and it's tough because I've even drafted him above Dallas Goedert and Noah Fant, who I also really love. I have them all closely grouped together, but luckily he's typically going like a round or 2 rounds later. Yeah. I mean, Darren Waller is probably the guy I'm trying to get at ADP, but if not, Logan Thomas is a guy I'm happy to settle on.
Love it. Yeah, Mike Clay was the last big wolf we had on before you, and he labeled Logan Thomas as his main tight end target, his main league winner as well. So 2 great minds being aligned there certainly doesn't hurt. Even more touchdown upside. Sure, Curtis Samuel's there, might eat into the target load a little bit, but I still think the quality of those targets can be that much higher if this offense is exploding. The way I think Brian Fitzmagic, we'd already talked about league-winning quarterbacks. I think he could be a monster. It was in your article, actually, I saw over his last 23 starts. I think he's averaging 22.3 points per game, and only 2 quarterbacks like Lamar Jackson and Mahomes had more than that, or something wild of that nature in your article, which blows my mind. And I don't see why he won't continue to put up a ton of points when his situation's only better in Washington. More faster-paced offense, better weapons. I love him as well. And so if I love him as much as I do, Logan Thomas is definitely big on that list. It seems to me, too, a lot of the later round ones, the obvious ones, the Kelce's, the Wallers, but then the Ebrons or, who else did we mention there? Waller when he broke out, Mark Andrews when he broke out. A lot of that breakout seems to be just very touchdown. Tonyan, we talked about, right? Almost all touchdown related, 11 touchdowns for Tonyan last year. So I'm trying to think of who might end up being one of those later round guys that's in line for, even if not a ton of yardage, touchdowns. I love Troutman. I thought that was a great call. I also think Ferkser, I get that you're playing behind A.J. Brown and Julio Jones, but they love to use those tight ends in the red zone. At least Arthur Smith did. Who knows if that will continue over with the new play caller this coming season. But he should be in line for a decent amount of scores if this offense is as explosive as it should be with those 3 big weapons. So I like Ferkser a bit as a potential touchdown machine. But Logan Thomas at price is a guy that I am finding myself land a lot. And Troutman, too. That you already brought him up. Is there any other league-winning tight ends? I'm trying to think if there's any other last-minute guys that I'm all in on that I keep getting I forgot about.
So within the quarterback position, it's careful to define quarterbacks as either a Konami code or a statue. With running backs, either a bell cow, workhorse, or a scat back or a handcuff. And then with tight ends, I've made the distinction of there's the oligarch tight ends and then everyone else, because there's no longer a middle class at the tight end position. It's just these 2 or 3 oligarch tight ends. I was saying wide receivers masquerading as tight ends. And that's certainly the case with Kelsey, who runs 60% of his routes from the slot, never blocks. That's Darren Waller, who came into the league as a wide receiver. Yeah. That's, I think, already Pitts, who unfortunately is being drafted, at his ceiling, but would have been a round one pick if he said, I refuse to play tight end. I want to play wide receiver.
Right.
And then Kittle's a little tougher because he blocks in a high percentage of his plays because he's such a damn good blocker, like Gronk was in his prime, but he's also, one of the best tight ends ever after the catch. He's just a monster. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking for that next Waller, let's say. And I think that's Logan Thomas, a hyper athletic converted quarterback who was really great his first year actually playing the position. And, the tight ends coach said, I think Thomas is already a top 5 tight end in the league. He was our most dependable player last year. So I could see a big jump for him. But another converted tight end is Tonyan, who was a wide receiver in college, also hyper athletic. And so he massively overperformed last year. His touchdown due for a massive touchdown regression. The stats on him are actually really crazy. And a lot of that, of course, was Rodgers putting together an MVP caliber season. But here's some of the stats. So he finished as the tight end 3, but he ranked 24th in targets. He had more touchdowns than he had incompletions thrown his way. It was the greatest season of all time by fantasy points per target. So we can look at it like wide receivers where, okay, hyper efficiency lends itself more towards volume in the following season. And that's basically what Matt LaFleur said. He said, Tonyan's improved more than anyone else on the team since he became the coach, and he wants to feature him more in the offense in 2021. Maybe he's the number 2 receiver, and he's the next Darren Waller. That would be amazing. He really only played part-time last year, whereas that's a big reason to like Logan Thomas. Logan Thomas had the best, route and non-blocking volume of any tight end. He never stepped off the field. He was at a 91% snap share. Tonyan was 65%. So who knows? I mean, he's a guy to consider. Tight end's just really tricky. I also wrote up Tyler Higbee, who was one of my guys last year. It didn't materialize. It's just the same argument for him. Goddard, Fant, I can't not like those guys. Ingram coming off injury, Troutman. And that's it.
I was going to actually bring up Higbee because he was the guy we talked about last year, and obviously that one didn't fully pan out, but the argument's the same other than Gerald Everett's actually gone now. Like he's completely removed. And I mean, those splits we talked about last year, remember just 2 seasons ago when Everett went down, he was on pace for I think it was almost 200 targets, 17 touchdowns, 1,600 yards. Obviously not a sustainable pace, but it was one of those things that just went and showed you this guy could be a true difference maker. Now you get Matthew Stafford, an offense that I think is going to become even more pass happy with Cam Akers being out. I love Higbee going, right around tight end 9, 10, right around that Logan Thomas range. If I miss out on Thomas, I have those 2 neck and neck. I really, really like Higbee and what he could do this year. He was the one I wanted to bring up. The only other one that we didn't mention, and he's old, so he could hit that cliff and just be completely useless, but Jared Cook, I really am into Justin Herbert this year, chucking 40 touchdowns or so, and maybe it's Parham. You said Parham earlier, certainly younger, more athletic at this stage, but if it's not, if they went out and got Jared Cook and Joe Lombardi coming over from the Saints, where we just saw Jared Cook, he's number 2 in touchdowns since he just went from the Saints those last 3 seasons, number 2 behind only Kelsey these last couple seasons. I think there is 10 to 12 touchdown upside if he remains that main guy and Justin Herbert takes off as much as I think he will. Is he too old for you, or are you just Cook's off my radar because of that? Or do you see any reason to go after him?
Jared cooked? Yeah. No, I think he's cooked. So in FFPC drafts, Donald Parham is going undrafted in basically every league, and so I'm drafting him in every league I'm doing. Again, Waller-esque upside. He's 6'8" and 240 pounds and ran a 4.68 with a 39-inch vert. That's insane. And so he was a small school tight end. I actually played in the same conference as Adam Troutman, who I love. Troutman averaged 83.3 yards and 1.3 touchdowns per game in his senior year. Parham averaged 146.6 yards, nearly like twice as much, and 1.4 touchdowns per game. Somehow he went undrafted and then was the best player in all of the XFL. Wow. Absolutely smashed, dominated, got like legitimate usage behind Hunter Henry last season. Trey McKitty's just a blocker. So he has that Waller upside. I don't know what that is. You could say it's 10%, maybe less than that. But at an ADP of free in a tight end premium tournament style league, yeah, I'm going to draft that every single time.
I see that too, especially if Cook, again, I know I'm hyping him up, but he is older, and if the injury risk certainly goes up by the year. So let's say he gets hurt early season, week 1 or 2, and it's just Parham's job the rest of the year. You'd probably rank him top 7 of your rest of season tight ends should he be that lone pass catcher for all the reasons you just listed. So as a last round type of guy in best ball or in FFPC, all that good stuff, I totally see it. I like them both just because I'm so high on that offense in general. I like them both, but if you want to avoid Cook because you think he's cooked, I get that as well, given his age. We will find out for sure. Well, that wraps up our league winner conversation here. What is up, you fantasy wolf? Thanks so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, share your thoughts in the comments, check out some more videos, and join the newest Wolfpack by subscribing below.